Hey everyone, what a privilege for me to just give you an update on the preaching teaching ministry from 2020. And I want to just make sure that I remind you that we put a lot of prayer and a lot of time into planning these series. We want to make sure that we're growing people's faith, we're growing their biblical knowledge, and also the ability to take what they learn out into the world in which they go to actually live it out. It's discipleship. And 2020 started with a bang. We started with this series that we entitled Anchored. It was on the book of Hebrews in the New Testament. There's this wonderful passage that talks about our lives being anchored to Christ. And that's what we challenged you. Are you anchored to Jesus? And if not, what are you anchoring your life to? And then we moved into our Easter series. Now, Easter is always interesting to plan for. And this year we decided to go to an Old Testament book of the Bible, the book of Psalms, where we looked at some meditations and just prepared our hearts to enter into Easter season for Good Friday and for Easter Sunday. But a funny thing happened on the way to Easter. That's when COVID hit. And I remember when the World Health Organization called it a pandemic, and that very weekend we had to switch everything that we did on weekend services and we had to move online. And Matt Loveday actually was up and he did a great job just responding to it. So we finished that Psalm series. Now what we did was we packaged up a service for you, pre-recorded, and made it available for you online. And we began to watch our services online. Into the spring, I have some notes so I remember. Into the spring, we then looked at a message series on the book of James called Faith Works. Just the way that our faith is being lived out by what we do, by our works. From there, we moved on to a series that when COVID was really hitting us hard in the spring, we realized that people were wondering, where is God in the loneliness or the isolation? And so we moved on to a series that we entitled Never Alone. Just how does God work in those times when we feel so lonely? From there, it was then into our summer series. And in the summer series, we entitled it In the Moment. And what we did was we looked at those decisions in our lives that can be kind of make or break it. Things come into our life and we have to make a decision. And we looked at some experiences with that and how those decisions have actually changed our faith. Maybe taken us away from God or maybe close to back to God. And that was a great 10-week series looking at that. After the summer series, things began to let up a little bit with COVID. So at that time, we began to invite a more robust worship team into North Park on Thursday nights. We recorded that. We began to experiment with some of the ways we presented announcements and the preaching. And again, we prepared it so that you could watch it anytime throughout the weekend. It was pre-recorded. In the September, we launched this wonderful series that we entitled We Believe. And what we did was we unpacked North Park's revamped statement of faith. And we looked at the 9 tenets of what we believe. And I think that was a powerful experience for us to really put a stake in the ground for what we believe. From there, we then launched into this very unique series that we called Ethos. And this is where we gathered the other 2 North Park sites, Huron and Stratford. And each of the teaching pastors took a turn teaching 2 of the values at North Park. But the unique thing was that Shane preached from Fanshawe, and he preached from Stratford, and I preached from Stratford and Huron, and then Kirk preached from Huron and from Fanshawe. We split it all up. And we even had worship teams from some of the different sites as well. And we also experimented with different ways of presenting the sermon. Instead of just a 30-minute continuous preaching time, we split it up. We kind of recorded different segments. And I found it really invigorating. I used a teleprompter for the first time as well. And it was just good for my preaching. That was a wonderful unifying series for us. And then we moved into a Christmas series that we just looked at the songs of Christmas. We looked at Luke 1 and 2 and some of the songs, Mary's song and Zechariah's song and some of the other songs, and what significance they play in our life of faith when we think of Christmas. So it's been an eventful year. Don't forget, in the midst of all of that, we also introduced our new live streaming, the way that we can actually, when you're at home watching, you're actually seeing us live. So we introduced that in December and since in January as well. And we're just praying for the day that we will be back together, gathered in our church auditorium and being able to praise and worship our Heavenly Father together. God's in control of it. We're looking forward to that. But last year, 2020, was a very important and a great growth opportunity for all of us as we saw God at work in our midst. God bless. Thanks.